please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an open meeting of the Seward, Nebraska governing body. The city of Seward abides by the Nebraska Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is displayed on the north wall of this meeting room facility as required. Disclosure of meeting recording processes is posted in the meeting room. A participant sign-in sheet is available for use by any citizen addressing the council. Presenters shall approach the podium, state their name and address for the clerk's record, and are asked to limit remarks to 5 minutes. All remarks shall be directed to the mayor, who shall determine by whom any appropriate response shall be made. The city of Seward reserves the right to adjust the order of items on this agenda if necessary, and may elect to take action on any of the items listed. Please call the roll.
Wilkin.
Present.
Beck. Here. Camper.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Pike.
Here.
Singleton.
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Eames.
Here.
All right, first item this evening are introductions, special presentations, and proclamations. And first I'd like to introduce Gary Janacek with the wastewater utility department, and the maintenance worker is here this evening. Gary, you just stand up and wave, and you can say a few words if you like.
Gary Janacek, I'm the latest addition to the water and wastewater department. Live here in Seward, been here a little over a year now. My wife works at she's a nurse in the hospital.
Well, wonderful. Well, we're good to have you on board. Thank you. Next is presentation of awards and plaques won by the city of Seward at the Keep Nebraska Beautiful Banquet. And I believe Mrs. Coulterman is here to present those.
Looks like we got a lot of them.
I need one. In case you don't know, I'm Betty Jean Coulterman. I found out today that not everyone knows me. I had to spell my name. But anyway, I've lived in Seward all of my life, and I'm so very proud to tell you that the city of Seward has won many plaques over the years, but this year was a good one. We had 6 awards received out of 9. And they kept saying, remember, these people are volunteers. Now every community, many of the communities that I work with or they work with are have paid directors. And so everything that we have, you can have these, everything that we do is done as volunteers. We send in 5 scrapbooks, and out of the scrapbooks, as you will see, Seward Women's Club won 2nd. They were beaten out by Chadron, which is fine. The youth group secondary award was 1st place to Seward High School. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit, just a little bit of what they have done. Over this last year, they have recycled paper, cans, and pop tabs, and they've recycled 8 tons of them. And that's a pretty good thing to do, besides all the other things that they do. And a group of boys collected 400 t-shirts so that they could send them to the missions in York. So that's just something that they do. They also received an excellence in recycling, and that's because they help with the recycling center. We have the Great American Cleanup, and we took 1st place in that, and that goes to the City of Seward and Keep Seward Beautiful Committee. And then if you'll notice on the other, we have some Keep American Affiliate Awards. We are not affiliated with Keep Nebraska Beautiful, and this is where they have the paid directors. Then we asked or entered the Deanie Award, Outstanding Community Environmental Award, and also was given to the city of Seward. And then they said, just stay there because you have won the Deanie Anderson Outstanding Community Environmental Award overall. So, I don't know who wants to collect all these, but I'll sure be happy to get them out of my house. I have 2 awards. One from last year, I don't know where it popped up all of a sudden. You can have that one from last year.
Thank you.
This is first place, the D.D. Anderson Community Service Award. This is the first place cleanup award. And this is the overall award. And since we're the last name on this award, we get to keep it. So, give that to you.
Thank you.
So we're very proud of the people that have worked. Remember, they are all volunteers. And I thank you for allowing us to come and present these to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. These are extras if you want to take them.
Thank you.
I'll get it.
All right, that concludes item number 1. Item number 2 is consideration of approval of draft minutes of August 18, 2015.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
In favor of the motion, Wilkenbeck, Campbell, same motion in hand, motion carries.
Item number 3, consideration of consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
In favor of Wilkenbeck, Campbell, same motion in hand, motion carries.
All right, item number 4, consideration of an agreement with the library board and Seward Library Foundation. And I know Becky is here as well. And did you, Bruce, want to just kind of give an overview of this?
Well, this is an agreement that was put together, 4 years ago between the city and the library board and the Seward Library Foundation. And it was based on a project that they were doing, but there was a thought from administration that there should be some kind of agreement that would keep the foundation from doing projects without getting it approved by the library board. At that time, it was renewable every 4 years, and that's why it's back here. And we talked about it, Becky and I, and we thought, my thoughts were, is why have it renew every 4 years? Why wouldn't you just make it perpetual, or why do we really even need this agreement? Is it really a necessary thing? And so that's kind of where we were at. Becky took it to her board, if you want to come up and talk, but she took it to her board and the foundation, and they both agreed with it, but again, we don't know that it's really necessary.
Speaking for the library board and the foundation board, we're happy to check the agreement. And in the future, if something would ever come up that we need to reinstate it, I think it would be fine. Or at least, as Bruce said, to make it be not every 4 years to come up again. But if you had a chance to read through this, it just outlines the practice that exists. The foundation is never, ever, ever going to hire their own workers to sneak onto library property to do something, because it's just not set up that way. The library foundation donates to the city to fund various things, and they've always done that, except the very first building, because it was easier to streamline for getting contractors and such. But now that it is city property, it's a totally different scenario. Then it was not city property, so. Any questions for me about this?
Any questions for Becky on this? Yes, Ellen?
So, you want us to either approve this or decide that we don't wanna do it at all?
Correct.
We have
Those are
the 2 choices, and your preference is?
to not do it at all. Just to let it expire. As
You know,
it did, it will the 19th of this month, I believe, is the date on the original.
And there's no automatic renewal or anything,
No.
which is why we're here to decide on the course you want to take. You want us to have any questions or comments?
The original had it, needing to be renewed every 4 years, what you have is probably the updated suggestion to not have that happen.
Does the council have any thoughts on which course to take as far as either renewing it in basically for perpetuity versus not having it at all? Chris?
So, I actually called Josh on this, and I think he reached out to you, Kelly, as far as, maybe not, you look at me like you maybe not it. As far as the reasoning behind it, why it was even there, I guess, when I looked at it, it actually gives a little bit of power to the foundation to do things, and nowhere does it say it has to come back to city council for approval. Josh was under the same assumption that I was, that it was put in place for the finishing of the library and doing that, because that was being handled by the foundation. And with no projects going on, I don't see putting this agreement in place and giving power to a foundation that can bypass the city council to do things. So I think it's a good thing to not have. Just let it
And I don't think the intent was ever to give the foundation that kind of power, because they have to go to the library board, which is the city's representative. So, anyway, but, yeah, well, I'm perfectly fine with not having it.
Does anyone else have anything? Okay. Yes, Barb?
I'd like to move to dismiss the agreement.
We have a motion, and is there, technically I don't know that we have to do anything if you're not going to renew it.
That it would just expire.
It would just, it would run and then
Expire the
there would be
19th.
nothing to do, so would you wanna withdraw the motion? Okay, so unless someone wants to make a motion to adopt the agreement, we can just not do anything, let it run its course, so. Not seeing anyone wanting to make that motion, thank you,
Yep.
Becky, for your time, and then I'll move on then to item number 5, which is the 2015-2016 budget discussion. Are there any other questions or comments from the council regarding the budget? John, are you good with that?
I think we've got it figured out that there's enough money
Okay,
from the current to clear the issue.
okay. Yeah, Chris, did you have something?
Well, I just see Ryan sitting back there in the corner trying to hide. And I know, I hope he's looked at this. I guess I'd just be curious of his opinions on it, kind of the high level. I mean, these are a lot of numbers to dig through and go department by department. I guess I'd just be curious of your input as far as basic accounting wise, can I try and put it together, and I know I always miss something. Inflows, outflows. We've got a lot of CIP stuff here that is all saying bonded. I know originally we were gonna pay cash for some of it. If everything happened and we bond all this, you know, what I'm always curious about that we never seem to get into is what does 2016, 2017 look like then, if we do all this stuff? If you can answer any of those.
Ryan Berger, 7120 Whitewater Lane, Macon, Nebraska, GBE CPA, Seward, Nebraska. I did get a chance to look at the numbers here. So if you just focus in on this fiscal year, net inflows, so we're budgeting for more revenues than expenses, are about $258,000, and that puts us at, if you remember in years past, and those who are a little newer, we're looking for a cash reserve component, specifically off of your general funds, your government funds, of 20 to 30%, and this particular budget puts us at 28%, so kind of in line with what you would expect. Now, if we do bond the $8.49 million that are in your updated budget, which you should receive the PDF email of that today, I see 4.75 million of that is in utilities, which I feel over time pay their way through increased rates, increased revenues, things of that nature. So I kind of honed in on the remaining balance, which is the 3.74 million in governmental funds. If you happen to get this bonded at nice rates, which rates are good now, so it's good to bond certain items, 3.25% assumption, you're looking at year over year debt payments of like 315,000 or so going forward, just focusing on those government bonded projects, okay, the general government ones. So as you can see, which is also about $1 million of interest over time if you get a 15-year deal on those bonds. So, you know, to me, not knowing the uptake of future projected revenues from certain projects and or the official costs, or if this really is gonna come in at, you know, 3.74 million, you know, you can tell 315,000 next year if there's no changes, and we're budgeting for 258,000 inflows this year, you'll already be automatically in the negative for the next years going forwards. Now there's cuts you can make and adjustments, and those numbers I'm comfortable, it's close to break even, but that's what you're looking at with the projects as is from this afternoon's email, which I might remind people includes a projection of, was it 1.6 million that you're not gonna have to bond because it's gonna come from other funds, and another 3 point, well, estimated total, I guess I'll say 4.2 million of outside money coming in to help pay specifically for the rail project. So I'm just working off of numbers presented to me. I think other people have done a little deeper dive. That's where Bruce and Bonnie have come into play this year. So working strictly off the numbers, this year's budget, positive inflows. Future, it's questionable if we'll have enough inflows to cover what we are going to bond, but it's not outrageous. Now, if those costs, or you end up bonding significantly more, which I've seen some projections on certain projects being significantly more than the 1.6 million we're set to bond, you could run into issues quickly, okay? So, but with the numbers presented this afternoon, that is what we're working off of. So I don't know if I made things worse or answered some questions, but this year's looks good. You'd already be a little bit in the negative next year just to pay off your bond and interest if you got those rates that we were talking about, 3.25% over 15-year on all of the projects, and you actually bonded all of the projects.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
I have a question. Ryan, when you were talking about the rail site, I know the total is 5.764 million, and then everything's like TIF / general revenues / bond. Like for the project, like how realistic are all those other, the other anticipated shared costs with everything, like, you know, the project buyout, the infrastructure? I mean, the city itself can't apply for TIF, can they?
The city's the one paying the TIF. They approve the TIF. It comes from projected tax increment from property taxes.
So maybe on property, it'll be owned by a different entity at that time.
You have to pay property taxes to receive TIF.
I understand that.
But it wouldn't be a city bond, if that's your question.
Okay.
But we would have no obligation on it. They would have to basically go out and sell their TIF bonds to
Okay.
private investors.
So as far as like the electrical infrastructure, which is 2.5 million, TIF, general revenues, what portion of that would the city be able to use TIF money on?
That's basically changed since we put this together. The deal with them now is that, you know, we told them that they'd have to pay for that substation up front, and then based on their usage, if they use what they say, we're gonna give them rebates back. And again, this is still speculation, but we had to put it in there just in case. But the idea then is we would give them rebates back based on how much their bill was to help pay that back over time. But again, it kind of takes us out of the taking chance game. So that's the idea in that 2.5
So these numbers are all kind of based on the hot mill project, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from council? Yes,
If we're basing this on the hot mill project, the council hasn't had an update on that since the last time that we met with the developers. So I have no idea where this project is. I look in these numbers and I don't see them attached to updates to the city council. And I understand that there's a committee of council people working with yourself and with the mayor. But we're not getting a lot of transparency here. The council is working being asked to approve a budget that contains significant amounts for this rail campus and the hot mill project, and yet we don't have any updates. I find myself uncomfortable trying to figure that out.
Well, obviously, before we did any expenditures of that project, it would have to come to city council for these monies, for like the buyout, the land and different things like that. That of course would come to the city council. Again, it goes back to, if you believe you're gonna expend it in the next fiscal year, you need to budget for it. It doesn't guarantee that you're gonna spend it, but we put it in the budget, or else you'd have to go back in and amend the budget, and once you set your mill levy, you can't raise it in the middle of a year. So we could amend the budget to add more money, but if you don't have an offsetting revenue, then you're in trouble. So we put these in there, and we feel like those are pretty accurate numbers, but based on what we believe that they're gonna pay and what would be TIF'd and different things like that, it's not a huge impact to the city itself. So that's
Aside from the actual purchase of the land, exercising the options which will also come before the council, I don't believe there's any expenditure that the city is paying for outright in the budget that wouldn't be sourced back to the project. So, I mean, same thing with, like, I think there's $350,000 for a golf course, but we haven't, we don't have any information on that, or version of information on that as well. I've not been at any meetings either on that. But these have to be placeholders, so that, like Bruce said, if you get to that point, it's easier to say no and then it goes away than to say yes and figure out, now we have to amend this whole process, and that can get time consuming and complicated, involves hearings. I mean, it just, so these are for all practical purposes, they're all placeholders, because it would still require the council to approve these down the road as well. I don't know if that helps or not, but, I mean, a lot of this is still being, volleyed back and forth, and still trying to figure out what this would look like. And I believe the CRA has a meeting tomorrow, which you would be welcome to attend to, in which they will go over a lot of those things as part of the TIF process.
I would say, while it's not ideal to amend, it can be done, and you can't amend for a new property tax rate, but you can amend that we're gonna do it through bond revenue. We'll increase bonds, increase expenditures, so I think, to be fair, it's not ideal, but it can be done that way. So.
Any other questions for Ryan? Thank you, Ryan. With that, move on to item 6 of the city administrator's report. Bruce?
Just your report's in your packet. If you have any questions about projects or anything like that, let us know. I talked to a company that does gas work for Black Hills today, and they were supposed to get a hold of the planning and zoning people and the department heads. They're gonna be doing a project, I think it's over in the northwest or northeast area, of replacing a bunch of gas lines, and so just a heads up that that'll be coming down the pike. I'm not sure when that's gonna happen, but they said that they had talked to somebody at the office, and so we'll kind of give you guys a heads up on when that's gonna happen, because there will be some disruptions in the areas. Otherwise, it's been, working on the rail campus, and then the budget's taken up most of our time. And like I said today, the hearing will be, we'll put the budget in the paper if there isn't any changes, and I guess there's not. We'll put it in the paper, it has to be in Thursday because of the holiday. It'll go in the paper on the 9th, and then the final hearing will be on the 15th, and that's when the mill levy will be set and the budget will be approved. Because it has to be approved on that date, we have to get it to the state by the 20th, so those are set in stone.
Any questions for Bruce on the report?
I move approval of his report.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote for your votes. Please declare the votes.
In favor, Wilton, Back, Campus, Briggs, Pike, Single, motion enhanced, motion carried.
Item number 7, future requests for council agenda items or administrative action. Seeing none. Item number 8, announcement of upcoming events. We have the Seward Student Council Homecoming Parade, September 25th, 2015. That's at 1:30 p.m. and that will begin at the Methodist Church parking lot, south on 5th Street to the band shelter, but I assume it's the, yeah. Unless, does anyone else have any other items or announcements?
Move adjourned.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
A motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Done. You. I'm gonna start throwing. You. Come here.